Thank you for joining me today in our safe space class. So, today we're going to be focusing on creating basically an internal environment that is safe for us, especially with whatever's going on in the world. Don't want to necessarily get into it. One of the most important things that we can do is create a space inside of us that is grounded and centered. And so, let's get started. We're going to need a few props today, and one is going to be a blanket. You can choose to have a yoga mat, or if you prefer to practice on a blanket also. A pillow for yourself. This is a bolster, it's quite firm. However, you can just use a regular pillow. So first, let's get seated in a comfortable position. So for me, I'm going to use a little bit of a blanket to prop just a little bit so that I can sit a little bit more forward, since we're going to start with some breathing exercises. But before we do, let's just set the intention for ourselves. What would you like to get out of this class? How would you like to show up today? And my intention for you and the way that I want to show up is that I can provide and help you connect with that safe space inside of you. So let's get started. One of the first things that's important to do in creating a safe space is really grounding and creating boundaries for yourself. So let's do a short exercise. And for this exercise, we're just going to sit. And it's mostly a visualization. So let's have you visualize that at the roots of your feet, it's being plugged into the earth. So just imagine that. Imagine that you are grounded through those roots. And after imagining that you've grounded through those roots, imagine that there's water running down on your body. And that water is clearing, that water is washing away anything. And then imagine calling your energy back. A lot of the times we spread our energy out to others, to certain things. It's really important that we call our energy back to ourselves. So imagine that as you call your energy back, imagine that your energy is being drawn inward and towards you. And as you've grounded, now you've cleared, you've called back your energy. And then imagine that around you is a bubble. Imagine that bubble, however thick you want that bubble to be. That bubble is your space. And that's your boundary. And that you can choose to allow things to enter into that boundary. And in this state of being grounded and creating your own boundary, let's then start to relax our bodies. We're going to actively breathe. So start to turn your attention inward towards your breath. You may even hear a whooshing sound. And it's very similar to the sound of the waves coming in and out of the shore. You find that as you continue to focus on your breathing, that your body gets heavier. Your body starts to relax even more. It's almost as if you're melting onto your mat. Allow the hips to drop. Allow the toes to soften. Allow the fingers to soften. Allow the shoulders to drop. Allow the belly to be soft. Even allow the features of your face to get softer. And you're just watching your breath. You're not trying to change it. You're not trying to manipulate it. You're just allowing the breath to come and go. As you notice the nature of your breath, take notice of perhaps the temperature of the air that you're breathing. And start to lengthen out the exhales. And as you continue breathing, can you be even more relaxed? Can you scan your body for those areas of tension and allow the breath to release those areas? And can you allow the body to rise and fall just like your breath? So as you inhale, you find that the body stretches upwards and rises upwards. And as you exhale, you notice that the body grounds down even more. And feel free to also close your eyes. That can reduce some of the stimuli that we're getting. And in this moment where you're turning inwards, you're bringing your attention to your breath, just notice the stillness and the calmness of your body. And notice too how the body supports us in everything that we're doing. It's very much like a loyal friend. And as you're breathing, if you notice any thoughts come and go, just allow them to be there and bring your attention back to the breath. It's important that we don't get caught up in the thoughts and we focus and concentrate on the breath. And our next exercise is an exercise called compassionate touch. So as we are relaxed here, I'd like you to take one hand, it could be either hand, right or left, one hand over your heart and another hand over your belly. And I'd like you to close your eyes. And continue doing the deep breathing. And as you're doing the deep breathing, just feel the rising of your chest towards your hand. And as you notice this, give yourself just that compassionate touch. So many of us are doing our best. So many of us are showing up in a way that we think is best. And so many of us are struggling. And yet, we are still doing our best. And so with that, give yourself compassion. And just like a tree reaching for the light, we don't judge the tree, even though it may twist, even though it might turn. We are all reaching for love. We're reaching for the light. We're all reaching for happiness. And so give yourself that compassion. And let's just spend a few more minutes here, growing that compassion within us. And when you're ready, just allow the hands to float to the knees, palms face up. So now we're going to move into the restorative yoga session. When it comes to restorative yoga, there are a few things that you would be helpful to understand. The poses that are having you fold forward are generally more relaxing. They're generally more increasing the parasympathetic system. So the forward folds, the child's pose, pigeon pose, all these poses, if you're feeling particularly agitated, irritable, anxious, these are poses that you want to move into more because they'll start to trigger the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the longest nerves of the body, and it's also going to help stimulate the parasympathetic system. If you're feeling particularly depressed, tired, sluggish, and more fatigued, the poses that you want to use for yourself are the ones that open up the heart center, okay? And the ones that help kind of do back bends. So these would be the heart opening poses, and primarily because then you're going to be increasing oxygenation to the brain, maybe stimulating a little bit of the adrenals. And so if you're feeling more sluggish, then these are the poses that I would recommend more. Either way, it's really important that you listen to your body and you give it what it needs. And so a lot of these poses are very restorative. We're going to be holding them for several minutes, much longer than a hatha or a vinyasa class. And so a lot of these poses are about letting our bodies do their thing. It's about more of a meditation and about mindfulness and connecting to our bodies. Our bodies are the start and the temple of our safe space. So cultivating a relationship with our body is really important to cultivating that safe space. So our very first move is going to be child's pose. Okay? But before we get there, we're just going to start to warm up a little bit. So let's have you on all fours. And with every yoga posture, we're always going to be using our breath. And so our first pose is actually cat and cow pose. So that when you're inhaling, you're going to be stretching upwards. And on the exhale, you're going to be curling like a cat. And we're going to do about 10 sets of these. So as you're doing this, you want to just be mindful of your alignment. So you want the wrists directly below the shoulders and the knees below the hips. And feel free, if you're called to it, to close your eyes. And again, closing your eyes, what it does is it decreases the stimulation in your brain. And you can do this as slow or as fast as you like. And when you're ready, bring yourself back to a neutral spine. And we'll move into the next pose called child's pose. Before we do, I'd like to just point out a few things. You can do child's pose in several ways. You can keep the knees together, and that's going to be more stretching for your back. Or you can keep the knees apart as you lean forward, and that's just going to be more relaxing and grounding. You will also still feel the stretch on your back. A few options for you. You can bring the hands out long in front of you, and it'll be more of an active stretch. Okay? Or you can bring them back by your hips, and then the palms will face upwards. And as you breathe, you'll feel the tension between your head and your hips wanting to lower. And so you just relax into that stretch. Okay? So I prefer actually having my knees apart. So you choose either knees together or knees apart. When you're ready, start to descend downwards. And while you're here in this position, continue to rest and stay focusing again on the breath. Okay? We're going to be in this position for several minutes. And as you do that, your mind is probably going to run away and think about things, might think about the grocery list. However, stay with your breath. Having this time to connect with yourself is often a rarity in this society. So as you're in child's pose, challenge yourself to see how deeply relaxed you can be, how deeply connected to your breath you can be. And as you lay here, what areas of the body can you allow to relax even more? Maybe it's the features of your face. Maybe it's your shoulder blades. Maybe it's this curve of your spine. And again, feel the tension that comes about as your breath rises and as your breath falls. Allow yourself to get heavier on the mat. And again, listening for that breath, that sound that comes and goes like the waves. Allow that belly to be soft. And let's just spend a few more breaths in child's pose. And then when you're ready, you can come back into seated position. This next pose is going to be a bit like child's pose in the sense of we're going to be either keeping our hips, our knees together or apart, it's up to you. And we're going to be bringing our chest down. However, this is a little bit of a twist. What's so beautiful about twists is that they help to actually not only increase oxygenation in the lungs, they also do lateralization of the brain. What that means is the brain starts to form connections between the logical and emotional side of the brain. So it's really important that we do the twists to balance the hemispheres of our brain out. Okay? And so this position is called threading the needle. It's actually really good for people who have tension headaches. So again, choose your own adventure, either knees together or knees apart. And what you're going to do is, and I'm going to, you can do knees together, knees apart. And you're going to come down almost like you're in child's pose. And then you're going to bring the left hand underneath the right hand, palm face up. Okay, so you're essentially twisting like this. And while you're in this posture, continue to breathe deeply. Allow that hand to get heavy. And in restorative yoga, it's really important not to hold yourself up. Okay? Just allow gravity to do what it's doing. When we do that, we learn the art of letting go. Physically, mentally, and emotionally. And while you're in this pose, can you breathe deeper into the lungs so that it almost stretches out the left side? And for me, can you allow the features of your face to soften? Can you allow the hips to drop just a little bit so that they're almost meeting the heels? And continue to stay in this posture. Okay, we're going to spend a few more breaths in this posture. And then when you're ready, slowly come up to sitting. And here's the part where we're just going to be mindful now that we've come up to sitting. Just notice how your body feels. Does it feel any different from the left or the right side? Okay. And so then let's move on to the opposite side. Again, choose your own adventure. Hips to get knees together or knees apart. For me, I prefer knees apart. And then slowly come down. And then this time you're going to take the right hand and you're going to thread it through the left hand. And allow the head to turn towards the right hand. And continue to breathe in this posture. And allow that breath to elongate the spine, to stretch out the areas of the lung, maybe even sending the breath towards the shoulder blades. And all the while, allowing your body to relax. So those areas that don't need to be held up. Allow the features of your face to soften. Allow your fingertips to soften. Allow your hips to drop even more. And maybe you're even scrunching your toes. Relax the toes. And allow the breathing to just come and go, just like the waves on a seashore. Then spend a few more breaths here in this posture. And when you're ready, rise up to sitting. Okay. So our very next pose, again, is similar to a forward fold in the sense of we're going to be targeting this parasympathetic system. And we're going to be training the part of our body that is more calming and relaxed. This next pose is called pigeon pose. And what it does is it helps to stretch out some of the hip muscles, particularly the psoas. Psoas is considered in yoga one of the muscles of emotion. We end up holding a lot of tension there. So if anything comes up for you while you're in pigeon pose, just allow them to be there. Part of cultivating a safe space is being able to hold space for yourself if you're having an uncomfortable situation, if you're having an uncomfortable thought, and if you're having an uncomfortable emotion. Okay? So in this safe space that we're cultivating inside of us, it's really a no judgment zone. Right? Just like a friend, we don't want to judge ourselves, right? So if something comes up for you, a thought, an emotion, just like the breathing, just allow it to be there and then use that exhale. Then bring the focus and concentration back into your breath. Okay. So this pose is a little bit of a challenge for some people. So you're going to bring the best way to actually go through it is through downward dog. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring the chin towards your thumbs. Okay. And then you're going to allow the back foot to drop. And you want to get yourself square first. So some people may not be able to bring their left hip down, their right hip down. So they may need a prop there. So that's what the blanket's for. Okay. And so you want to stretch up and up first, and then start to calm down. And then do this slowly. Take your time. We also want to make sure we're not jamming the body into positions. We want to respect the boundaries of our body and the limitations and really start to listen to them. You can also, if you're feeling the knee talk to you, you can bring the heel inwards more, and so it's a little bit more straighter. As you progress, the shin may come to 90 degrees. However, it doesn't have to be there. So find yourself in the most comfortable expression of pigeon pose. And then start to connect to your breath already. And when you're ready, come down slowly, bringing the hands towards the floor and eventually the head. So as you're in pigeon pose, this pose can be particularly challenging because your hip might be talking to you. But the purpose of this pose is to allow yourself to let go, to get heavier, and to continue to connect with that breath. So as you're here, be mindful of the thoughts that you're having. Be mindful of the attention that you're giving those thoughts. Bring the focus again back to the breath. And can you be even more relaxed? Can you allow the fingers to lengthen, the wrists to relax? Can you allow the eyebrows to soften? And the tongue resting on the bottom of the mouth. And perhaps you can drop the shoulders down even more. And let the belly be soft. And let the breath flow through your body in this pose. Continue to breathe deeply. And when you're ready, start to rise up from pigeon pose. And we'll meet in downward facing dog. So in downward facing dog, it's just time to see how your right hip is doing. Okay. You may feel inclined to just roll the hip a little bit. Okay. And then it's time to do the other side. So bring your shin towards your thumbs. Again, allowing that back foot to drop. Okay. So the toes are going to be facing the floor. And again, if you need a blanket to help square out your hips, then do that. And remember, reach up and then start to slowly bring your body down. And continue to stay in pigeon pose. Cultivate that concentration and focus with your breath. And keep breathing. And in this pose of surrender and letting go, what parts of you do you find that you're gripping? So as I was quickly doing that pose, I noticed that my jaw was clenching. So maybe allow the jaws to relax. Again, allow the features of the face, the eyebrows to relax. Allow the belly to get soft. And allow the breath to move through your body. Beautiful thing about breathing is that you can control it, and you also don't have to control it. So it's one of the greatest tools for being able to rein in your mind. So in these last few breaths that you're holding pigeon pose, how deeply relaxed can you be? How much more weight can you give to the floor? And when you're ready, start to rise, and we'll meet in downward dog again. And this time, we're just assessing for how that left hip feels. Does it feel a little bit more open? And let's bend the knees and then come back into a seated position. So we're going to move through two more poses. And this pose, so we've noticed, you might have noticed that the first few poses were all forward folds. So the next one that we're going to be doing is actually a heart opener. And what that means, it's a little bit of a back bend. And we're going to get started by rolling up a mat. Rolling up the blanket, okay? And this blanket is actually probably a little too long for me. So you want to roll it up to the length from the base of your head down to the curve of your lumbar spine. So essentially, it's going to go pretty much from here to here. Okay. And so with heart openers, this is great because it oftentimes we're kind of working in the office and it's always like this and scrunched up, right? Which is actually a pose that ends up kind of inducing a lot of anxiety and tension headaches for a lot of people. And so this kind of helps to open up those areas. And so what you're going to do is you're going to place the blanket where you're going to be lying down. So you can either keep your knees bent or knees long in front of you. It doesn't really matter. For some people, they may appreciate actually having, you might appreciate having something for your knees. It's really up to you. I prefer not to have anything there and just keeping the knees bent. If you have any back pain, it might be prudent to have a pillow or a bolster to take some of the tension off your back. Okay? So you're going to put the blanket just in the small of your back, and then you're just going to slowly roll down. And you're going to bring your arms out like wings. And then you're just going to breathe. And as you stay in this posture, just allow the breath to fill up the top of your lungs. And allow the shoulders to drop down a little bit. And there's nothing for you to do in this pose except get heavier. And with every breath, you become more and more relaxed. Allow again the tension to be released from your body. Features of the face get softer. You find that you melt even more on the mat. Allow yourself to get deeper into relaxation. Let the belly be soft. Maybe the fingers can uncurl. And as you're breathing deeply here, allow your body to rise with every inhale and with every exhale to descend. I'm going to spend a few more breaths in this position. And when you're ready, roll to the side, roll to one side, and just take out the blanket as we're going to move into a position called Savasana. Savasana essentially is called corpse pose. And it's a pose where you're lying completely still and just allow the feet to flay open. And with the hands, I'd like you to go back to placing one hand over the heart and another hand over the belly. And just feel yourself breathing. Feel yourself relaxing onto the floor. And I'm going to be leading you in Savasana in an exercise that I use with my patients to help them ground and connect to their safe space. So while you're in Savasana, feel free to close your eyes as I lead you in this visualization. Imagine a place. Either you've been there or it's a place that you're creating now, where you feel at home and safe. Imagine the entrance to that place. Does it have a door? Is it a gate? And imagine that you're standing by that entrance. And it's an invitation for you to let go of some of the things that don't serve you. These things could be thoughts. These things could be emotions. Anything that doesn't serve you. And imagine that you place it at the entrance of your safe space. And when you're ready, proceed to walk through the entrance. As you're there, what is it that you see? What are the colors? And can you get into the details of your safe space? Can you see the outlines? Can you see the objects? And as you call to mind the scene from your safe space, can you also notice the sounds of your safe space? What is it that you hear here? And as you continue walking through your safe space, you begin to also notice the different smells. And these smells, they remind you of your safe space. And so take a flash, take a photograph of the sights, the sounds, and the smells here in your safe space. And as you continue walking, what is it that you feel as you walk on the floor? Or you may even feel the temperature of your safe space. And continue to breathe in your safe space. And in this place, just do a quick body scan. How does your body feel? What are the sensations that are in your body? And as you continue to walk around your safe space, you see a little note that has your name on it. And it's a note that is encouraging for you. As you open up the note, what does it say? What is it that you need to know and hear? And you take that note and you put it in your pocket. Again, connecting to your breath, connecting to that feeling of safety. And as you continue to walk, you remember that no matter where you are, no matter where you go, you will always have this safe space to come back to. And you head towards the entrance. And you can always return to this safe space at any time. Continue to breathe deeply as the feelings of safety linger in your body. And when you're ready, Slowly turn to one side and come back into sitting. So thank you so much for tuning in and for cultivating this time for yourself and time to create this safe space. I hope you enjoyed this class, and we'll be having classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 7. And you can register through info@Enliven Mental Health. You can send an email, or you can go to bit.ly/safe space class.